Lena Graves always believed that nothing was more comforting than a warm cup of matcha until the day she found a new cafe that didn't exist on any map. The first sip was perfect, smooth, sweet, and calming. But by midnight, her reflection started smiling before she did. By morning, green veins began to bloom beneath her skin. Now, every cup she drinks feels less like a beverage and more like something drinking her back. The first time I tried the matcha latte from the new cafe on Hillview Street, I thought it was just another trendy drink everyone was obsessing over online. The place had opened quietly, no grand signs or banners, just a pale green door with a handwritten chalkboard that said, "Freshly whisked matcha. Taste the calm." I was tired after work and curious, so I went in. The air inside was cool and still, with the faint scent of tea and something earthy that reminded me of wet leaves after rain. The barista didn't speak much, just nodded when I ordered. I remember how their hands trembled slightly as they whisked the drink, the froth forming tiny, perfect circles on top. When I took the first sip, I expected bitterness, but it was smooth and rich, with a sweetness that lingered too long. The taste clung to my tongue, earthy yet faintly metallic, like water that had touched rust. It was strange but oddly comforting. By the time I finished it, I felt warm, almost heavy, like my heartbeat had slowed. My head buzzed faintly, and the world outside the cafe seemed quieter than usual. Everything looked sharper, the colors deeper, as if the drink had changed the way I saw things. When I got home, that taste still hadn't faded. I brushed my teeth twice, but it stayed, coating the back of my throat like something alive. I turned on the kitchen light and caught my reflection in the window. My skin looked a little pale, but it was late and I'd barely eaten, so I ignored it. Then I noticed my lips. They looked faintly green under the light. I leaned closer, my breath fogging the glass, and that's when my reflection smiled. My mouth didn't move, but the reflection grinned wide, teeth faintly tinted the same green as the drink. I stumbled back, knocking over a glass. It shattered on the tiles, the sound echoing too loudly in the empty kitchen. When I looked back, the reflection was normal again. No grin, no strange tint, just my own wide-eyed face staring back at me. I tried to laugh it off, but the sound that came out felt dry and weak. I went to bed trying to convince myself it was exhaustion or maybe the caffeine. The room was quiet, but I couldn't sleep. I kept tasting the matcha. It was like it had sunk into me, spreading through my veins, pulsing softly under my skin. Around 3 a.m., I woke up gasping, my heart racing. My throat burned with that same earthy bitterness. I went to the bathroom and turned on the light. For a second, I thought my eyes looked different, slightly clouded like someone else was looking through them. I blinked, and they were normal again. As I tried to calm down, I noticed a faint scent in the air, the same one from the cafe. Sweet, grassy, almost comforting. But this time, it made me feel sick. The next morning, I told myself not to go back to that cafe, but the craving was unbearable. It wasn't hunger or thirst. It was deeper, like something inside me needed it. The thought of that smooth green foam made my mouth water. I tried to distract myself with breakfast, but every bite tasted dull, lifeless. By noon, I gave in. My feet moved on their own, carrying me back to Hillview Street. The cafe looked different this time. The sign outside was gone, and the glass windows were darker, tinted as if they were hiding something inside. Still, the faint smell of matcha drifted out through the small gap in the door. When I stepped in, everything felt muted. The sound of my footsteps, the hum of the fridge, even my own breathing. The barista was there again, though I couldn't remember their face clearly. Their hands were trembling more than before as they prepared my drink. When they slid it across the counter, their nails looked faintly green, stained deep into the skin. I tried not to stare. The first sip made my entire body shiver. It was colder than before, but smoother, almost creamy. My heartbeat slowed again, heavy and deep in my chest. The taste was perfect, Yet something about it felt wrong. The bitterness was gone, replaced with something too sweet, like spoiled fruit hiding under sugar. I felt dizzy, but I couldn't stop drinking. Each gulp pulled me deeper into a strange calm, as if everything bad in the world had been erased. When I finished, I sat there for a while, just listening to the faint ticking of a clock that didn't seem to come from anywhere. No one else came in. The barista had disappeared into the back, leaving me alone. I got up to leave, but my legs felt weak. My head buzzed, and the world seemed softer around the edges. I walked outside into the cold afternoon air, blinking to steady myself. Halfway down the street, I noticed an alley I hadn't seen before. It was narrow, damp, and lined with trash bins. Something about it drew my attention. At the end of the alley, I saw broken cups scattered across the ground. Ceramic ones, all the same pale green color from the cafe. They were cracked and stained as if someone had smashed them in frustration. I took a few steps closer and saw that the liquid splattered on the ground wasn't tea dried. It was fresh, glistening under the light. Then I heard it, a slow, wet slurping sound. My body froze. In the shadows, something was crouched low, its back arched, long fingers scraping against the pavement. It was scooping the spilled matcha with shaking hands and bringing it to its mouth. I couldn't see its face clearly, but its skin looked peeled, almost translucent, veins glowing faintly green beneath. It turned toward me. I saw its mouth stretch unnaturally wide, its lips dripping with the same thick green liquid. For a brief moment, our eyes met, hollow, glowing, inhuman. I blinked, and it was gone. The alley was empty. Only the broken cups remained, steaming faintly in the cold air. That night, I couldn't sleep no matter how hard I tried. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure from the alley, its trembling hands, its green-stained mouth. The sound of its slurping echoed in my ears, as if it was right beside my bed. I turned on the lamp, and for a moment, I thought I saw movement in the corner of my room. Nothing was there when I looked. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. At around 2:40 a.m., I finally drifted into a restless sleep. In my dream, I was sitting in the cafe again. The room was packed this time, filled with people sipping from identical cups. No one spoke. The air buzzed with quiet humming. I looked around and noticed their faces, each one pale and smooth, expressionless except for faint smiles. Their eyes were blank, fogged over with a faint green tint. I looked down at my hands, and they were shaking, stained the same color. My cup wasn't filled with latte anymore. It was thick, pulsing slightly, like something alive was breathing beneath the foam. I tried to put it down, but my hands wouldn't move. The people around me began to hum louder, the sound vibrating through my skull. The matcha in my cup rippled as if responding to the sound. I felt my throat tighten, my vision blur, and then I woke up, gasping, drenched in sweat. My heart raced, but I could still hear the faint hum even though I was awake. I stumbled into the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and froze. The water wasn't clear. It had a faint green hue, so subtle I thought I was imagining it. I turned off the tap and stared. Slowly, the water in the sink started to move on its own, swirling counterclockwise. The smell of matcha filled the room again, sweet, earthy, thick. I backed away, but my reflection caught my eye. My pupils looked darker, and the veins beneath my skin seemed to glow faintly green under the light. All day I felt sick. My hands shook constantly, and everything I ate tasted like dirt. When I looked at my reflection in store windows, it seemed delayed, moving a split second after I did. People brushed past me on the street, holding green cups from the same cafe, their faces pale and distant. I thought I saw one of them smiling at me, their teeth faintly tinted the same green as mine had been that night. By evening, I was exhausted, but the craving came back stronger than ever. I could taste the drink without even touching it. The air in my apartment felt heavy, damp, and I could smell it again. That grassy sweetness. When I turned toward my desk, my heart nearly stopped. There was a cup sitting there, perfectly still, faint steam rising from it. I hadn't bought it. I hadn't left my apartment all day. The foam on top rippled slightly, as if something beneath it was breathing. I don't remember picking up the cup, but when I came to my senses, it was already in my hands. The ceramic felt warm, almost pulsing, as if a faint heartbeat was buried inside it. I could smell it again, that perfect mix of sweetness and soil, like freshly cut grass soaked in rain. My stomach churned, yet my hands refused to let go. I tried to throw it across the room, but my fingers locked in place. I brought it closer to my face, the steam curling into my nostrils, thick and alive. The first sip slid down my throat like silk, but it burned, spreading heat through my chest and into my veins. My vision blurred, colors melting together until the room seemed to twist around me. I stumbled backward, but the walls stretched away like liquid. My skin prickled. The hum from my dreams filled the air, faint at first, then louder, vibrating through my bones. I could hear whispers beneath it, words I couldn't understand, soft and slow, like someone chanting underwater. When the spinning stopped, I wasn't in my room anymore. I was standing behind the cafe counter. The lights were dim, flickering weakly, and the air smelled rotten, metallic, and sweet. The barista's apron hung on a hook near me, soaked in dark green stains. I looked down and saw a whisk in my hand, dripping with something thick and sticky. The counter was covered in cups, each one half filled with matcha, each one faintly pulsing like a heartbeat. I turned toward the seating area, and that's when I saw them. The people from my dream were there, rows of them sitting perfectly still, cups in their hands, eyes closed. Their faces were pale and smooth, veins faintly glowing under the skin. I took a step forward, and as if hearing me, they all turned their heads in unison. The sound of their necks cracking filled the air. Their eyes opened, and for a moment, everything stopped. Their pupils were gone, replaced with swirling green mist. My breath caught as one of them smiled, a wide, unnatural grin that stretched too far. The hum grew louder, shaking the walls. The liquid in the cups began to rise and fall, rippling to the rhythm. I looked down and realized the same thing was happening in mine. It wasn't just a drink, it was alive, breathing with me. I dropped the whisk and tried to run, but the floor seemed to melt under my feet. The green liquid spread across the tiles, reaching for me, crawling up my legs. I screamed, but no sound came out. The hum drowned everything. My vision darkened, and for a brief second before it all went black, I saw my reflection in the espresso machine's metal surface. It was smiling again. Only this time it wasn't copying me. It raised its cup, green liquid dripping from its mouth, and mouthed something I couldn't hear. When I blinked, the cafe vanished, and I was back in my room, the empty cup lying shattered at my feet, still steaming. I don't leave my apartment anymore. The green veins under my skin have grown thicker, pulsing softly like tiny worms beneath the surface. My reflection looks less like me each day. My eyes are darker, my lips slightly tinted, and my skin has taken on a pale, almost gray hue. I've stopped eating real food. Nothing tastes right. The only flavor I crave is that same earthy sweetness that now feels like part of me. I can still smell it in the air, faint but constant, as if the walls themselves are steeped in it. Days blur together. I don't remember the last time I spoke to anyone. My phone sits dead on the counter, coated with a thin layer of dust. Every night, I hear sounds from the kitchen, the soft clink of ceramic, the faint stir of liquid being whisked. The first time I heard it, I thought I was dreaming, but it happens too often now. Always at the same time, 3:33 a.m. I lie there, frozen, listening to the slow rhythm of metal scraping against a cup, followed by that sickly sweet smell drifting into my room. Last night I couldn't take it anymore. I forced myself out of bed and crept down the hallway, every step heavier than the last. The kitchen light flickered weakly. On the counter sat a fresh cup of matcha, steam rising slowly from its surface. The cup wasn't one of mine. It was the same pale green ceramic from the cafe, only now cracks ran through it, leaking faint trails of liquid that crawled like veins across the marble. The smell was overwhelming, choking. My hands trembled as I reached for it, even though every part of me screamed not to. As soon as my fingers brushed the cup, the whispering began again. It wasn't from outside this time. It came from inside my head, familiar and calm, urging me to drink. My heart pounded, my throat dry. I tried to pull away, but my reflection in the dark window across the room didn't move. It just stared at me, smiling faintly like it was waiting for something. I looked closer, and my reflection began to lift its cup, even though mine was still on the counter. I took a step back, and the reflection didn't. It stayed perfectly still, holding the cup up to its mouth. Then it drank. Green liquid dripped down its chin and onto the floor. But in my kitchen, I heard the sound of liquid splashing at my feet. I looked down and saw it, the same thick matcha seeping from nowhere, pooling around my toes. It was warm, almost pulsing, moving on its own. I ran to the sink, fumbling to turn on the faucet, but only a thin stream of green water came out. I backed away slowly, breathing hard, eyes locked on the window. My reflection stood there, smiling wider now, its teeth faintly green. Behind it, I could see others, rows of faces, all pale, all wearing that same hollow smile. The whispering grew louder until I couldn't hear my own breath. The lights flickered and went out. In the dark, the only thing I could see was the faint glow of green spreading from the cup on the counter, inching toward me. When the lights came back on, the cup was gone. The counter was clean, but on the glass of the window a single green handprint remained, fresh, dripping, pressed from the inside.